evening and welcome to Haven's first ever webinar. If you've tuned in all of about 2 minutes early. So we will be giving our official formal welcome any second now, but it's really good to have you on board. We're just going to have a little look and see. We have got and the participants are clicking up now. That's very, very exciting to see everybody joining us. So good evening to everybody. My name is Claire Banham. I am the founder of The Haven. I've been a youth worker for about 10 years now, and probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to have more and more conversations with young people who were struggling with anxiety. So I set up The Haven in response to that, in order that we can help young people to develop strategies to build their mental resilience. So yeah, and I personally have also had my journey with anxiety. I've probably been different varying levels of anxiety for about 30 years. I say problematic anxiety. And my co-host this evening and facilitator is Jez Bottrell.
Hi.
Jez, good evening.
Hi, I'm Jez. So I've been involved in Haven for a couple of years now, alongside Claire, and I think I experienced some anxiety not so long ago, but it was a fairly new thing. It was something I didn't feel I understood very much about initially, but also a bit like Claire said, I was having more and more conversations with young people who were finding it problematic. And so my involvement just came out of a desire to help and to understand it a bit more. And so I have got involved with Haven as well.
Excellent. And we are wondering who we have got with us this evening. The great thing about webinars is that you don't have to worry about being on the screen or people hearing or watching you. We're recording this evening so that other people can watch this later on. But anything that you put into the chat or the Q&A, you can choose whether you want to be anonymous or not. And actually, I don't think we'll probably mention names anyway. We'll just be mentioning all the ideas and feedback you're giving us. But we'd love to know how you've come to be with us this evening. So, Jez, could you run our opening poll, please? Very exciting, all these webinar tools.
Yes. And this is all a little bit new to me as well. Okay, I think I have found the opening poll. So some questions are going to pop up on your device, either on your computer screen or your phone, however you've joined us. So just tick whichever box, and we will release the results shortly afterwards.
Excellent. So today's webinar is designed especially for young people, but everybody is welcome. And we're hoping that in the series, we're doing a series of 3 webinars, and we'll be able to equip you with tools and strategies to help you reduce and manage your anxiety levels. Or maybe you're tuning in tonight because actually you're interested to support a friend or family member. So we hope that will be useful for you as well. You don't need to have been to a Haven session previously, but if you have participated in any of our support groups or in our schools courses, then a particularly big welcome to you. We have got the poll is up, so we're hoping that you're taking care of that at the moment. And Jez, could we have our PowerPoint up, do you think? Because I would love to run us through what we're going to be covering this evening.
So Claire, if we can just hold back a moment, because I'm not sure we can send the PowerPoint whilst the poll is still.
Can't do poll and PowerPoint at the same time. That's a little bit too busy. We're trying to get ahead of ourselves.
And
you'll notice
I can still see that poll moving around. So so we've had a few more answers coming in. If poll's been open for about 1.5 minutes now, shall we freeze that there? And do you want to have a look at the results?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then we can move on to PowerPoint then. Okay, so I've ended the poll. Hopefully you can all see the results now on your phone screen. Or maybe I need to click share results first.
There
okay,
we go.
So now we're sharing them.
Excellent. So we sent out some care packs recently to some young people who've been involved in the Haven before. So obviously there's a large number who've tuned in via that. And that is really, really exciting that actually the top two slots. One is the care pack, but one is also being told by a friend. So that is fantastic. Very good news indeed.
Brilliant.
Right. We'll be doing a couple more polls as we go through the evening. We'll also be using the chat as we go along. When you put in chat, only Jazz and I can see that, so you can be honest and open with your responses. And we'll be using that as we go along to get your feedback on what we're talking about. So Jez, let's talk, let's see what it is we're talking about this evening and in our webinar. So if we can
Brilliant.
go to,
Here
brilliant,
we go.
and if you go to slide 2, please. There we go. So we are going to be concentrating tonight on the physical effects of anxiety. Why it is that our body responds the way it does when we're anxious, and actually also the good news is how we can use our body and our physical reality to help reduce and manage our anxiety levels. We're hoping to have a moment, an opportunity for you guys to share some top tips as well, so it's not just coming from us. We're going to make this really practical, and we're going to practice 2 great strategies for physical responses to anxiety, the way that we can use our bodies to just calm those stress hormones down. We're going to be touching upon the effect of lockdown and what we can do about that, and we'll also be signposting you to some other great resources. So I think that's probably that for now. So as I said, we are recording, but it is anonymous, and if you share anything with us on the chat or through question and answers, then we won't read out your names either. The question and answer is kind of what it says on the tin. If you've got any questions going along, then please do pop them in the Q&A toggle. You'll see that at the bottom of your screen in the centre. It can be about what we're discussing as we go along, but it might also be more general stuff about anxiety. And if we can't get to your question tonight, then we'll try and cover that off in the next couple of webinars coming up. So I think without further ado, let's head on to our next slide. So we talk a lot about the difference, we talk a lot about stress, and we talk about anxiety and worry. Stress, anxiety and worry. And those words can be kind of used interchangeably a lot of the time, I think. But for the sort of benefit of this evening and for the webinars going forward, it's good perhaps to define the difference between stress and anxiety. So stress is your perceived inability to cope. It's when we know something is coming up or is happening to us in real time, and we get that feeling of panic and fear, and actually we're worried that we won't be able to rise to the occasion, whatever that is. Anxiety is that feeling of panic and stress, panic and fear as a result of stress. It's all completely normal. It's part of the process of our body and mind is kind of the way it's put together. But the issue with anxiety is then if we are no longer experiencing an actual stress event or situation, and we're still getting those feelings, or maybe the event has been and gone and it's the feelings of fear and panic are carrying on. If that is the case, or you just can't quite put your finger on why you're feeling that sense of adrenaline or fear, then that is when anxiety becomes a problem. It becomes problematic anxiety. And that is what we're talking about this evening, because anxiety is normal. It's just that actually from time to time, it sort of takes over. And rather than being a background feeling that we can kind of attach to an event or a situation, it becomes something that sort of really impacts our life. So, Jess, can we have the next slide, please? So what's going on in our brains when we are in that kind of anxious state? We talk a lot at the Haven about fight, flight and freeze. It's quite a common principle that actually we are designed to to react and respond to stress in certain ways. We either need to fight something, we need to run away really fast, or it might even be advantageous for us to freeze. Think about the rabbit in the headlights, hoping that the danger is going to pass. And all of that happens because in that moment of something being perceived as danger, so our brain is perceiving a danger, it's perceiving the threat, and therefore it hasn't got time to process all the logical information through our prefrontal cortex, our kind of information zone, if you like. So it wants to go straight, sort of transferring all the energy in our brain to the limbic system, which is our kind of instant response. It's the bit that just has to kick in when we need it the most. So that's what's happening in our brain, but that is driving all sorts of things going on in our bodies. So I wonder, Jess, can we have the next one? I wonder what that is like for you. So if we're talking about physical responses to danger and to physical responses to anxiety, what is that like for you personally? What's your physical response? It would be really good to hear from you actually. What is your experience in terms of how your body tells you that you're anxious? What are the symptoms that you perceive to be kind of hand in hand with anxiety? So if you go to the chat function, you can share that with us so that we can see the kind of things that you guys are dealing with. Now, as I mentioned, you can click the anonymous box, or you can, we won't mention names, but do be honest with us. Give us the gory details. What is anxiety like for you, and how is your body kind of responding to that? Jez, have we got anything coming in?
Not so far that I.
We did ask some people in advance, didn't we? So we could just share that. Oh, we've got some things coming through. Yeah, feeling nauseous. Yeah, a lot. Yeah, that feeling of sick, kind of that sickness feeling, and actually even some people are physically sick. Yeah, knots in our stomachs.
We've got some sort of sweaty palms in those kind of situations when it's all a bit intense, and yeah, another mention of a sort of knot in the stomach. Yeah, so they're all very real kind of experiences, aren't they? When just in that moment, you maybe don't realize it at the time, and it's not until afterwards that you think that's what I was doing. Yeah,
heart racing. We talked about sweaty palms, tingling. We've had hearing things that aren't there, so there's that sort of sense of kind of audio perception and visual perception that actually maybe not sure what's going on. People talked about tingling sensation in their arms and their feet, and that a sense of being constricted in our throats, or a heavy feeling in our chest, breathing issues. Such a wide range, isn't it, of different symptoms. And isn't it amazing that we all might say, I'm feeling anxious, yeah, I'm feeling anxious too, but actually what we're physically feeling can be quite different. Okay, we're going to go back to the slides now, Jess.
Okay.
And the next slide. So for me, anxiety often takes the form of butterflies, but I don't know about you, but I like butterflies. Butterflies are pretty. So when I get anxiety, I tend to refer them as moths, which is probably a little bit prejudiced against insects. But anyway, that's how I feel.
Could be daddy long legs.
Could be, yeah, actually, no, they're even worse, aren't they, the moths? But, you know, it is because the way that our body is responding. Can we have the next one, please, Jez? Our limbic system is taking over. It's making sure that we've got all the energy and all the resources we need to be able to fight, run, or make really instant decisions. And so it's taking a load of things offline, if you like. So digestion system, that is not necessary in the moment. It's not important in that emergency situation, and our breathing and our heart rate is pumping up, if you like, in order to give us all the resources we need, which is all great news if a tiger jumps out at you. But the problem for us, of course, is that that's not the case in modern day world. Well, not usually anyway. And a lot of our system has been designed in a way that actually probably the modern world seems to be triggering in very unhelpful ways. But the good news is we can use our bodies, we can use our physical reality to reduce the stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, the two big stress hormones, and we can use our body and we can use our physical reality to actually reduce those and make a big difference to our anxiety levels in a very short time. So I think we are going to go straight to the next slide and talk about our first practice, our first technique that we are going to be running through. Now, it's a great favourite at the Haven, and if you've been to any of the Haven sessions, we use these a lot, mostly because we know they work. We know that breathing techniques are one of the top things that we share when participants vote for their favourite tool or strategy that we've shared with them. Breathing comes in very high, if not at #1 slot. So we are going to go through a breathing technique tonight. Now, there's two that we often use, but tonight we're going to be focusing on square breathing. So can we have the illustration of square breathing up as I talk us through that, Jez?
Yeah.
Great. So square breathing is does what, oh, okay, I hadn't realised that. I hadn't realised that the numbers were going to change on the screen. That's great, that's a gift, and I hadn't realised it. How much fun is that? So you're going to use the screen, your screen, as a square, or another square that you can see, maybe a window or a page in front of you. The idea is that you use any square or box around you, and you count as you do the different breathing pattern and technique. So we're going to breathe in for 4, we're going to hold for 4, and we're going to breathe out for 4, and then we're going to hold for 4 again. And this is a sort of a visualization technique at the same time, because I always say it's always a good idea to try and imagine like a download bar filling up around the frame of your square, your box, and that way you're also using it as a distraction technique, so you're focusing on something that isn't your anxiety. So we are going to give that a go now. So can you make yourself as comfortable as possible? Brilliant. And then we are going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's reasonably simple. I probably confused you by doing the numbers in a different way to the screen, but that's because I'm not used to doing it.
You were nearly matched with the screen, but not quite.
I'm just so used to doing, I always counter. Never mind. And so if you were going to do this, you would do this for 4 cycles. So you would do 4 repetitions 4 repetitions is 1 cycle. And I would start with 1 cycle to begin with, and then you can build up to 2 or even 3 cycles to really get the full effect. So why don't we try a cycle of 4 repetitions, and I'm going to try and count with the numbers on the screen. So get ready, and we are going to breathe 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1, out, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1, in, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1, out, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1, in, 4, 3, 2, 1, hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathe. Okay, Jez, tell me, was that 4 times or 3 times?
That was 3 times.
Yeah.
Got it.
I can't hold both numbers in my head at the same time. I can't.
No.
When we do this when we're doing this physically together, Jez is often in the background holding up how many figures.
I just have a card up here. I just hold it up each time.
Anyway, we hope that that's been helpful, because it is a really, really great technique. And if you've been using breathing techniques in the past, I wonder if you could just use the chat to share with us why you like it, why it's been helpful for you, what you've found has been good about that, and we can share that with other people. Now, we do actually, as I mentioned, we use 2 techniques in Haven. And one of the other ones we use a lot is the 4-7-8, which I'll come back to in a second. So somebody said that it's something to focus on. So the thing about square breathing is you're doing the counting and you're sort of doing a visualization, which is a really good distancing. What else are we getting in, Jez?
So we have sort of adding that it's something to focus on. Absolutely right. Takes your mind off whatever it is and gives you a new focus. Oops, folder just fell off the desk. So it takes a moment. Thank you. That's a really good thing. Yeah, it's like a full stop. You need a break. Yeah. You need a new start.
Yeah. Take stuff back.
Yeah.
Somebody said, mentioning that it helps to get to sleep. Yeah, breathing techniques are brilliant if you're struggling with sleep. And that's our webinar 3, by the way, a bit of a quick plug. We're going to be focusing on sleep, but breathing is a really good technique to use. Any breathing techniques are good to use at night.
Jumping ahead, I've just had a thank you for a specific video I uploaded last week. So we're not, well, we are going to do that a little bit later, but thank you. That's really nice of you. So,
made Jez's day.
New strategy. Yeah, we'll do that towards the end, and I'll talk you through it then. But thanks for that.
Excellent. So 4-7-8 breathing, we will we do in our sessions, and later on we'll be telling you how you can find. In fact, I don't know if it's possible, but would it even. Jez, could you find the link for the 4-7-8 breathing and broadcast that as a chat?
Yes, if I click on the right thing, I can.
I am challenging Jez now with all the technology that I'm asking him to use.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if am I still screen sharing? I should know, really, shouldn't I?
No, you're not screen sharing. But no.
Right. I'm just going to post the link to this video.
So this is a video that we did recently, and at the beginning of lockdown, and it uses both square breathing and the 4-7-8 breathing. So that gives you both in one go. Excellent.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'll put that up there in just a moment.
Fantastic. So I just talked about the fact that we shared the video at the beginning of lockdown. Lockdown obviously has been this massive thing on our horizon in 2020. Who would have known that one of the most common phrases of 2020 would be, "No, you're on mute. I can't hear you. You're on mute." Just everything has changed, and it changed really quickly. And when we experience massive, rapid change in a way that is so sudden, it's actually incredibly natural to experience anxiety. And I think that's what the whole nation has been through. But we're really interested to know how lockdown has affected you and your anxiety levels. So I'm really throwing things at Jez now. Jez, could you open the second poll, which is the lockdown poll? Because what we'd love to know is what you think the effect of lockdown has been on your anxiety. So has lockdown affected your anxiety levels? Has it increased it a lot? Has it only increased it slightly? Has it stayed the same, do you think? Decreased a lot, decreased slightly, or don't know? Perhaps you'd be kind enough to pop your answers in the poll, so that we can find out the effect that lockdown you feel has been having on yourself. Now, as I said, I think the whole of the nation has been experiencing some level of anxiety in relation to lockdown, and it's completely understandable. But as we said at the beginning, if those feelings of anxiety, so I was talking to somebody today, and they said actually they felt that they'd probably just assumed that anxiety was something that everybody else was going through, and therefore that they should just push it down and just ignore it and suck it up, because that's what everybody's in the same situation. But actually they realized that probably in doing that, they hadn't taken time to notice what lockdown, how it was affecting them, and therefore do something proactive about it. So I think it is really worth acknowledging. Yeah, somebody was saying that they've been using some of these techniques for when they've been struggling with sleep. And they said, I've been really struggling for over 2 months with sleep and slowly getting better. Really proud of myself for that. Well done. Because you have taken really proactive steps to manage that and make that and really work at that. And it's really paid off. Well done.
Yeah.
Big up for that. How are we doing? Do we think our polls are in
yet?
Poll
results are steadying now, so we've got 13 responses out of 14.
Oh, well, we'll do it. Let's do it.
So if we finish the poll and then share the results up, so you should be able to see these on your screens. I think it's probably not a huge surprise that the majority of people or a bigger group are saying that they feel anxiety has increased a lot, and quite a few increased slightly as well. We're in a very different world now, aren't we? We're dealing with very different things. I also find it fascinating that some of you have talked about perhaps a decrease in stress and anxiety, and very, very interesting to see that.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they would put themselves on the more introverted end of the spectrum, and they said for them the fact that they could manage their social environment more, that they're not going out so much, that for them has been a real kind of positive thing. But of course now they're starting to look ahead to September and going back to school, and that's their anxiety levels are starting to rise. So it's been a real up and down, hasn't it, journey? I think, but tonight we're here to see what we can do to help to manage those anxiety levels, especially when they're getting to be an issue. Brilliant. Thank you for sharing those with us. Okay, so
just picking up on a comment that's added here, and I think it does time with what Claire was sort of saying, that you're experiencing less anxiety because of no school, because of course in school you're surrounded by a lot of people all day, aren't you, and different people's behaviour can impact on you, and so it's very interesting to see that maybe that stimulation of being at school's not the same, and perhaps you do feel a little bit calmer in your regular environment.
I think so. And then of course you speak to the extroverts, and they've been desperately missing social contact, and actually that has been making their anxiety worse, because actually it's been being with people that they help to distract themselves and keep their anxiety levels calmer. So we're all different, but actually somebody said we're all in the same storm, but the boats were in a different. I think that's a really good way to put it. So we don't want this all to be from us. We want to harness your experiences and your ideas as well. So could you now use the chat again and let us know what has been helping you? So in the last couple of months, what have you found that has been really helpful for reducing your anxiety levels? I'd like to say that actually just in noticing that you're anxious and then choosing to do something about it is probably one of the biggest steps. Noticing what we're thinking and what we're feeling is like the number one top first step, really. So you will get a big thumbs up for that anyway. But if you wouldn't mind just popping in the chat what you have found useful in the last couple of months, and then we can share some of those ideas amongst us. And don't forget, if you've got any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A box, because we will have a chance to look at that in a little while, and we'd love to answer any questions you've got for us.
Great. So straight off the mark here, we've got somebody commenting that being physically active, staying physically active, it's really helped them. So running and walking, great examples of activity to take your mind off things, and they just give your physical body a chance to sort of take over. I'm with you there. I think my mind often goes blank when I'm walking or running, and actually it is a good chance just to sort of reboot mentally as well. I think
I think and people have been talking about creativity, art, actually, you know, something where you kind of, again, you're distracting yourself by really kind of throwing yourselves into something. Listening to white noise before sleep, that's really interesting. I'm going to squirrel that one away for webinar 3. Borrowing a friend's dog and taking a friend's dog for a walk, excellent.
There's something quite nice actually about somebody else's pet.
You can give it back.
You don't have to take responsibility for the poor creature, but you can just enjoy that moment, and it's something different to do, isn't it? So yeah, that's really good. We've got drinking water frequently. I think that's something we could all do more of. You know, and it might be that you're stuck in the middle of something and you just go get yourself a glass of water. You've given yourself a small break and a bit of time out, as well as rehydrating, which is so important. A couple of people giving a shout out to the Haven Care Pack, so that's really heartening and encouraging to know that those have been helpful. And someone mentioned the Good Day Journal. We've produced a Haven Good Day Journal, and that, so journaling and just keeping a note of what you're thankful for, and you know, how you're feeling and how you can make your the next day a really good day. Those are all really good things to do. I just want to acknowledge a comment that we have, that anxiety is kind of connected with external circumstances. So how people are treating your family is what you've put down here. And I would encourage you perhaps to reach out for a bit of help with that. I think we're happy to take that conversation a bit further with you after the session if that's useful. And we're also going to be looking at some point about the things that are in our control and some of the things that are not in our control. Is the circles of influence, is that in the packs, Claire? I can't remember whether we...
yes, it is, but if you didn't get a pack, we will be reviewing that next. We will be talking about that a bit next week as well.
So circles of control, keep your eyes open for that as well, but we'd love to chat with you some more if that's helpful.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to know, you don't need to think, you know, in one part of your brain that it's not something that might actually happen, but it's still something that your mind returns to again and again. And so actually taking positive steps to think and list through the things that are in your control and that you are part of your reality, that may help you to feel a bit more grounded and less anxious about those wider situations.
Brilliant.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you for all your someone said taking a break from schoolwork. Oh yeah. Somebody mentioned to me today, they said that in some ways that their anxiety had got less because they could control more of their scenario, but it had also got more because that they were getting less support from school, and there was more work coming in, which I think for some people has been the reality. The good news is summer holidays are nearly here, so hopefully at least they will get a bit of a break from the homeschooling situation. And I say that as a parent as well. Right. Okay, so we've been reviewing what other things can help us, but I want to come back to the topic for tonight, which is how do we use our physical reality, our bodies and our physical environment, to help us manage and reduce our anxiety levels. So we've been through a breathing technique. We're going to signpost you to the video. We've signposted you to the video for another breathing technique. But Jez, we mentioned the video that we put up earlier this week of your sensory recalibration. So we're going to take everyone, Jez going to take us through that now. On the video, you actually had a bit more time, didn't you? So you had 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but we're actually just going to do 3, 2, 1. Is that right?
That's right, yes. So I'm going to do this. This is the demo version, effectively. So I really encourage you to check out the full version online. So we're just going to do 3, 2, 1. I'll give you a little bit of space on each one. So what we're going to do, this is about recalibrating your mind by taking stock of what's going on around you. And rather than,
what does recalibrating mean? No.
So it's bringing your mind off the anxiety and putting it into the present.
Brilliant.
So, and we're doing it by checking our senses, basically. So, you know, we can't sort of whip out a storybook necessarily and lose ourselves in that to bring, you know, and watching TV is great sometimes, but actually this is something you can practice at any moment in any place. So the idea, 3, 2, 1, we'll start with, you know, just around you in the room you're in, or if you're outside or whatever, in your mind, name 3 things that you can see right now. So, and it could be anything, couldn't it? Of course, I'm sitting in my caravan, so I can see the cupboards. I can see.
I love the fact that just to get peace and quiet, you've gone to your caravan.
I know, just to get away from it all. My caravan is sitting right outside my front door, by the way, so it's not anywhere exotic or exciting. So I can see the inside of the caravan. I can see leaves and plants just outside the window, and I can see carpet at my feet. So it's as simple as that. If you want to take a bit more time, which I think actually would increase the effect of doing this, you could start to notice colours, shapes, how you might describe those things. So 3 things you can see, 2 things you can hear. For me, that was right on cue. Just after I said that, somebody started their engine just outside. So I heard an engine starting up, and I can hear, I wouldn't describe it as birds singing. I can hear a sort of angry tweet going on somewhere nearby. I think the cat might be out there upsetting something. But again, listen to those kind of descriptions. It's not just a sound. You know, think into it a bit. What does it sound like? How would you describe the sound? Because the more you focus on the kind of detail of the sound or the sight, the more, again, your mind's exploring something else. So it's going to, you know, rather than listing them off quickly, it's actually going to kind of take you inside it a bit more. Okay, so finally for this, I'm just going to say 1 thing that you can feel or touch. And again, those kind of questions like, is that a soft surface? Is it warm? Is it bendy or sharp or whatever? So just become aware of something that you can touch. So yeah, that's it really. Shame we can't sort of sit here and ask you what those things were, because it would be quite interesting to chat about them right now. But there we go, we move on. But if I can encourage you, have a look at the video that we've uploaded on our channel, and you know, have a go by yourself, see how you get on with it. We did have that lovely heartwarming comment earlier on that's really helped somebody and they really liked it. So give it a go for yourself and see how you do.
we're obviously talking mostly about the physical effects of anxiety this week. Next week, we'll be looking at our thoughts and the mental effects of stress and anxiety. But actually, so much of anxiety is about our thoughts being preoccupied or spiraling ahead of ourselves into the future, or maybe just kind of continuing to come back to the past and replay that again and again. And actually this technique is brilliant for bringing us back, firmly rooting ourselves in the present, because the past has been and gone. It's done. And the thing that we're worried about in the future, that may not even happen anyway. So actually what we want to be, and the healthy place to be, is in the present. And this sensory countdown, if you like, can work really, really well to help us do that. Thank you, Jez. Thanks so much. Now, oh, and he's done the channel link in the chat and everything. Very good. So why don't we...
Claire, while we're on that,
yeah.
We were going to tell everyone the search terms, or was that for a video?
Why don't we do that now? So why don't you share, if you share your screen, we can take you through the best way. Can I just also we're going to come into question and answers in a minute, so if you have got any questions or answers, please do pop them in. So the Haven channel is a great resource for you guys. Now if you were, so this is what it looks like now, and we will put the link to the channel in the chat as well. And we've got a number of videos on there, and we've also got some audio tracks. So the ones at the bottom, deep relaxation, sorry Des, can you go down? Deep relaxation, sleep training for Haven. We'll be talking more about that next week, week 3. But we've also got a thought observation exercise, which is an audio thing. So we've got some videos and audio on there. If you are coming to this from a different place and you want to try finding it, if you just type in the Haven and anxiety or relaxation, you'll get all sorts of different things. So probably the most useful way to search for it is if you put in the search engine, the Haven mental buoyancy. And I know that is a bit of a tricky word, but it is a really unusual word, and because of that it helps us to find B-O-U-Y. B-O-U, you were right, B-O-U-Y-A-N.
This is not good. No, it's the other way around.
You're there. You're there.
Buoyancy.
And there you go. And so the first thing that comes up is the top tips for mental buoyancy that we did right at the beginning of lockdown, which gives a really clear overview of some great, easy to things to practice. And there you go. There's our logo and the Haven channel. So that's how to find us.
So like and subscribe.
You got it in there. Well done.
We've got 24 subscribers. Let's get that up, people, and then
that'd be cool.
This with more folks.
Still, I've got 222 views on that top tips, and I think not bad. And the other way that you can check us out and keep in touch with us is through our Instagram page, which is #HavenResilience. So that's #HavenResilience. So those are the 2 ways that you can keep looking at what we've got coming up. So check out our videos, and we'll be popping things on our Instagram page as we go along. So so next week, as I've mentioned before a couple of times maybe, we'll be back at the same time, 7:30 next Wednesday evening. That's Wednesday the 8th, and we will be looking at the mental effects and the mental strategies for reducing our anxiety. So I'm looking at, oh, it's not hashtag, sorry. My social media guru is on the chat, and it's all in caps, so she's shouting at me. So did I say it wrong? It's at Haven, not hashtag. I always get those 2 mixed up. So it's at Haven Resilience, not hashtag. It's at Haven Resilience. Anyway, something was bound to go wrong at some point with me and social media. That's probably the least of it. So have we got any questions and questions coming in?
We haven't so far, but
yes, we have, Jez. I can see them.
Am I in the wrong place here?
Q&A.
Q&A, right.
So somebody said, with anxiety, is it better to distract yourself and avoid the situation, or face it head on and tackle it? Oh, that's a really, really good question. Facing our fears is almost always a brilliant positive step. Even if you face your fears and then go, I'm not actually equipped to deal with this right now, I'm going to retreat to another place and take on some more resources. But actually facing up to what we're feeling and taking a good look at it face on is a really good thing. But it can be that that's not necessarily, you haven't actually got time for that in the moment, or you've got something else coming up that you really need to, it means that you've got to kind of try and get those anxiety levels under control, in which case I would definitely say try some kind of avoidance or not avoidance but distraction technique, really, such as the ones we've used tonight, or a visualization technique, or just listening or doing something completely different. I think when your panic levels are rising, that's probably not the time to really face the fear. Actually, we talk about then we practicing these techniques and tools on the good days so that they can help us on the bad days. So when your anxiety levels are starting to get to critical point, that is a really good time to use distraction techniques, to use calming techniques like we've been doing today. And then when you're in a better state, and maybe with somebody else helping you and giving you support, then it's a really good idea to face up to what you're feeling anxious about, if you can put your finger on it. What else have we had come in?
I've found my box now. I was in the wrong one. So I think this is a really good question. How do I slow down my thoughts when I'm panicked or when I'm panicking?
So that idea, that sense of our thoughts spiraling out of control, we're going to be talking more about that next week. But actually, what we've just been talking about, that sort of distraction techniques, just you need to break the state, basically, is the sort of nice phrase for it. And that can mean that if you just can try and see, when we were talking about the brain earlier, and our limbic system, which is sort of in the middle bit of our brains, that's taking over. So it's actually disconnected our logical, rational part of our brain altogether. So that's kind of gone offline, and we need that back online, and that will help. So if you could do something really logical and rational, so it could be maybe do a really like tricky sum. I'm a very emotional person, and if I want to stop myself from blubbing in public, if I'm talking about something emotional, or it's just not appropriate for me to be weeping, then I will actually do a sum in my head, because it's just engaging that logical, rational part of the prefrontal cortex. So try that. Try breathing techniques, and try the sense again. Using your senses is really great, because actually we can see, hear, feel those. It's reminding ourselves of the physical reality of our present, and not allowing our thoughts to whiz off.
So am I right in thinking, Claire, it's not that you're ignoring the thoughts or you're trying to pretend, it's just that you can't really deal with them while you're panicking.
Yeah.
So actually you need to do one of these techniques just to bring yourself out of the panic.
Yeah.
And then at some point, at the right point, you're going to be able to deal more rationally with the thoughts that are causing it. So, you know, because I'd almost be like, but I need these thoughts because I need to work through this. But actually saying, no, let's get out of that panic and then come back to this at the right time.
Yeah. Sometimes you could even make a date with yourself. I am going to sit down and I'm going to really look at this later on at 4 o'clock. And by giving yourself permission that you are coming back to it, that you are going to be facing it, and you're going to be giving that thought a bit of airspace, you might actually just calm the panic down, and then you can give yourself a breather. and allow yourself to just, and then you can approach it more calmly and rationally.
Okay. So next question we've got here, Claire, is how do I deal with change, as that seems to be my biggest trigger?
Well, that is a big one, isn't it?
Mm.
So we're going to be looking at this is really about our mental approach to life, isn't it? And I wonder what it is that you tell yourself when it's changing. I wonder if there's a script going on that says, I can't deal with this, I can't deal with this. So you almost paint yourself into a reaction. So we're going to be talking more about how our thoughts can actually trip us up and can actually be our own worst, we can be our own worst enemy in that. We're going to be looking at that next week. But I would say break it down. Have maybe with somebody else, maybe sit down and really break down, what is the change that you're worried about? What is it really factually? We're going to be talking about the difference between opinions and facts. Often our thoughts are full of opinion and very little for fact. So if you were to sit down with somebody else, preferably, maybe put it on paper and think, what is the change? What are the facts of it? What really affects me? And how have I dealt with things like this in the past? Because actually we're much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And we've probably already found ways to cope in similar situations. More next week. We should probably move on, but one last one. When should we use the breathing exercises talked about? When do we think we should use the breathing exercises we talked about, Jez? When is it a good idea to use those?
All the time. Keep breathing. You need to breathe.
Don't stop breathing.
Yeah. I mean, we've mentioned earlier about practicing on the good days, because then it helps us on the bad days. So actually, it is really good to try and set a bit of time every day to give it a practice. I think in terms of when is the right time to use it, when it's going to help you, you know, if you're sitting in the car, you won't, most of you probably won't be driving the car, but perhaps if you're on the way to an appointment or something that maybe is just playing on your mind, that could be a good time. If you've got somewhere to sit down for a minute, and it could just be that you've got a sort of low level feeling of anxiety, so it might be before bedtime, or you've just got stuff playing around in your head, you know. So any time that you become aware of tension in your body, and you want to do something about it, this is about you taking control and doing something that's going to help you. So you know, just listen to that, listen to yourself, and find that opportunity to practice the breathing.
Yeah, I'm just sending something. Okay. Are fight and flight the only responses? What's the difference? It's all about how you respond to danger. It could be that if you feel, so when I'm feeling particularly stressed, I just want to hide. I just want to hide. And that's, I just want to run away. But some people get angry when they get stressed or anxious, and that because they're sort of wired to fight rather than flight. And freeze is the other approach. If you feel like you can't quite think and you just feel frozen to the spot, then you're a freezer. I'm often told that I look as if I don't have anxiety. I never know how to respond. How best should I deal with that circumstance? Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? People sort of, I think they feel that they're giving you a compliment. Oh, you don't look like you're an anxious type. I know that my daughter gets that a lot. But, you know, actually no one else knows. No one else knows what's going on inside you. No one else knows what you're feeling. You shouldn't be embarrassed about how you feel. Look, all of us today have experienced that. Everybody experiences anxiety at some level. So I think probably just a very firm thank you, but actually that is my reality. Maybe, you know, I think they're mostly people say these things because they want to be reassuring, don't they? Maybe I'm giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, but actually, you stick to your guns. You know what you're feeling, and you shouldn't be ashamed of that. Right, I think we've got the last poll coming up. So we'd love to know how you found this evening. So we've got our final poll so that you can vote for how this evening's webinar has been for you, and please be honest. So if it hasn't done what you wanted, then don't hold back. It would be really helpful to know that. So we're coming into land. So how did you find tonight's webinar? Was it and what was the content like for you? So if you could just pop that in, that would be really, really helpful. So we're going to end in a moment with oh, I've got a note. I've just had a notification. I've got a new subscriber to our YouTube video, Jez. So well done.
They're going up. They're going up. Excellent. That's exciting.
Oh, super. Now, the Haven is a Christian project. It's open for everybody of all faiths and none, but we, Jez and I, are Christians. We run this because we believe our faith has something to say and hope to give, but it also inspires us to want to help people, because we believe that we were created as human beings for an abundant life, a full life, and anxiety can so often rob us of that. So in a second, after we finish the poll, we're going to be finishing with the Haven prayer, and that's something we do every Haven session. It just gives us an opportunity to, I guess, practice what we preach, really, because for Christians, taking a moment, breathing, being still, that often involves prayer. We acknowledge that we have a higher power, and that brings us a sense of peace. So if you're the praying type, then we're going to, in a second after we finish the poll, we're going to bring up the prayer. And if you're not, that's fine. Just use that as an opportunity for calm and meditation. That'll be great. Go on then, let's close the poll.
Well, we've got 10 out of 13 answered the poll so far. So sorry if I'm going to cut you off halfway through, but let's...
Drum roll.
Yeah, really encouraging. Thanks, guys.
Oh, brilliant.
Lovely.
Thank you.
I mean, I hope you'd be honest if you weren't finding it. But, we are motivated to keep on going, and you know, really hope you'll join us again on the next few sessions.
Fantastic. That's really great. Thank you. Very helpful to know. So, Jez, if we close that and then share screen and PowerPoint slide 10.
Yep. Good. I think I need to invest in a computer with a gigantic screen, just to keep finding all these things on the screen. So really helpfully, we've got a plane flying over right now, which you might be able to hear while I'm talking. Hopefully it'll pass by. Do make this your own if you feel praying is helpful for you. Otherwise, just reflect on these words and just have your own moment of calm. So,
why don't we just breathe? Why don't we just breathe? Take 3 or 4 nice, even breaths. And Jez will lead us in our prayer.
Loving God, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. In the days and the weeks and the months ahead, grant me the gift of peace, real peace in the depth of my being, a peace that goes beyond my understanding, and help me to find ways to build a lasting calm into my life. Amen.
Amen.
The candle even flickers, Claire. That's amazing.
Right. So that was our first ever Haven webinar. And considering the panic levels that Jez and I were experiencing about 3 minutes beforehand, I think it's all gone really well. So thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for joining in. And we really do look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Spread the word. Let's help lots of other people. They can, and we're going to be popping this video tomorrow. I'll be putting this back on our YouTube channel so that people who've missed or couldn't tune in tonight can see it. And we will be back at the same time next week. Brilliant.
Brilliant. We look forward to you joining with us next week. Yeah, so bye from me.
And bye from me. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.